167 days in space, over 38 hours performing spacewalks, traveling more than 6 million miles, making hundreds of orbits about the Earth. But how did I get there? This is the making of an ordinary spaceman. I'm Clayton C. Anderson, and these are my stories. Today we are here with another episode of the podcast, The Making of an Ordinary Spaceman. And as we all know, after having listened to previous episodes, we talk about things that and people that helped make me the person that I am today, and the person who was fortunate enough to be selected to fly in space as a United States astronaut. So today, it's an honor to have a very special person in my life here with us. He is from Arkansas. Originally from Grand Island, Nebraska. He is Stephen Fruchtel, and Steve was my roommate at Hastings College during my first, well, we were roommates for the first 2 years, and then we stayed in the same dorm, but we became resident assistants. So, and the biggest thing is we played football together for 4 years, and we were also in a lot of classes. So Steve, welcome to the podcast, The Making of an Ordinary Spaceman.
Thanks, Clay. It's a pleasure.
It's good to have you. Oh, yeah.
Well, I feel honored.
Well, thank you.
Good grief.
I'm honored to have you, dude.
I always thought that you helped me more in college than I helped you. So, I mean, this is great.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the first thing I want you to do for the listeners out there is tell them a little bit about who Steve Fruchtel is. Kind of a little short 1 or 2 minute synopsis of your life so far.
Okay. Well, he's a guy that you almost didn't get to meet. Grew up in Grand Island, played football in junior high, but didn't play a lot, didn't start. So didn't play in high school till my senior year. A lot of you may know from Grand Island, Ken Fisher was the football coach at Grand Island High. He was also my teacher, junior in high school, and when I was starting to lift weights, was his weightlifting assistant. So I started packing on some muscle, and Ken says, "Why are you not playing football?" Because I was on the team in our junior high, and I didn't play. I'm not going to put in the time and not start when I can get a part-time job and make money. He says, "Son, I'll guarantee you, I'll make a spot for you." So, I thought to myself, well, I would like to let her in something before I get out of high school. So I went out for football, and, it's pretty much that. Colleges came calling, and Doane was on the top of the list. Kearney State was there, and Coach Maupin came in late, offered a little bit more money, and there you go, Hastings College. After that, graduated from Hastings, took a job in Arkansas, and Georgia for a couple of years, and ended up back in Arkansas.
Yeah, how many years were you total? Did you work for Campbell's? Yeah. Well, it wasn't Campbell's at first, right? You worked for.
It was Campbell's at first. I was hired out of college. I that actually went to school in Lincoln, but was familiar with Hastings College. He came to the campus. And I had Greg Behrens and I actually both on the same day. So spent 6 years in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and then transferred to a plant in Douglas, Georgia for about 6 years there. Then transferred back to Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I worked with Campbell Soup, and then it eventually turned into Vlasic Foods, Pinnacle Foods.
Yeah.
And in 2008, I took a job with ConAgra down at Russellville and worked there till 2020. That's when I retired.
All right. So he's a fellow retiree.
Yes, sir. And I'm loving it.
So we're going to go backwards now, Steve, and we're going to reach back. And I know, given your age, just like me, that memory is tough for us these days. But I have my recollection of the first day you and I met. And so first I want to hear your recollection of that day, if you remember it. And tell everybody about that situation and scenario.
Well, you and I we corresponded. I can't remember if it was by a phone call or by letter over the summer. We were assigned roommates, and
Right.
so, I think I may have called you or something, got a phone number. We talked, and what kind of things, do we want to put in the room and all that stuff. And we kind of got that all settled. And then the football team had to report early for 3 days.
Yep.
So we're all there, reporting to the dorms. As I remember, you were there first.
I think you were there first, actually, because you'd already put the piece of plywood up above the 2 closets,
Oh,
and you had your stereo up. See, Steve had all the cool stuff. He had all the gadgets. I didn't have diddly.
yeah.
I had one of those little pots that you plugged in that boiled the water.
Yeah.
But Steve had the stereo system and the speakers, and he had a what did we
TV.
call it? 8-track table player and a TV. And when we walked in the door of our dorm room, there were 2 closets on the side, and on the ledge of the closets, he had measured and cut a piece of plywood that fit in there perfectly. So it gave us a perfect shelf above our doors when we walked in to put the stereo equipment up. I remember that. And so I'm pretty sure you were there before me.
Okay. I just remember somebody, and I thought it was you, because when I got there in my little green Mustang,
Yep.
to help unload, and I know one of my folks was there too, I think, helping. Somebody was
My dad was there, and I don't know. I think your dad was there, but he had left already. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
I know somebody was helping take stuff into the rooms for me, helping us.
So what'd you think of this roommate when he walked in the door? What were you thinking? Holy crap.
Well, no, not really. I mean, just, good looking kid. I thought from, Ash, I mean, I knew you were from Ashland. I really didn't know a whole lot about, but once I think we went to our football meal, our meals that night, and we were start talking and stuff and hanging out, and man, I got me a winner here. So
That's what I thought. I mean, we were pretty blessed between you and I.
We seemed very compatible. I mean,
yes, I agree. And we were on a similar educational path. We both were into math and those sort of things. So we took all that math stuff together for the most part. And I don't know if you remember, but I remember the first day we had calculus every morning at 8:00 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I remember going into calculus. We went into this temporary building, which was where the calc room was. And the guy teaching us was Dr. Dale Behrens. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when Steve and we went to class together because we were roomies. So we go into class and we're sitting in this like trailer.
It was a trailer, double wide.
And we sat in our chairs. We just picked a couple chairs, right? And we're looking at the front, and there's these 3 kids in the very front row. You remember this? And they were all high school kids from Hastings High.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do remember. I kind of felt myself a little stupid being older, and then you got these young punks sitting in the front of the class.
And they were the young punks that did all their homework. They turned everything in on time, if not early. And they just were they were geniuses, apparently.
Oh, they must have been.
And of course, they destroyed the curve anytime we took a test.
Those are the ones that, they take those, they consider that an AP class, I guess. And they, instead of a 4.0, they get a 5.0. So, these kids are getting 4.4 GPAs, I'm like, how does that happen on a 4.0 scale,
Exactly. And of course, Behrens was the teacher that we came in one day and the heat was off or something, and it was wintertime and cold, and he had us all get up and do jumping jacks. You remember that?
Yeah. I love that guy.
The Behrens family, Dale and his wife, Elizabeth. Liz. Were extremely intelligent. They were great instructors and good people, right?
They were good people.
I don't know that I ever met anyone at the Hastings College.
They invited me into their home many times, not only for academic stuff, but just for like Thanksgiving treat, or just it was cool.
So let's talk, since we're at our freshman year, kind of.
Hold on a second. I gotta say something after you were talking about Dale Barron's class, calculus class. What did we do when we came back to the dorm after calculus?
Oh, we took a nap every day.
Well, what we did before that?
Oh, we put in either the Eagles or Kansas on your VCR,
Meatloaf.
8-trap or Meatloaf, and we listened to music till we fell asleep. Because then we had to wake up and go over to the practice facility for, I think, 4 o'clock practice or something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Does this sound familiar?
Oh,
Sanford and Son.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. I forgot about Sanford.
After math class, Sanford and Son came on like at 9 o'clock. That was a must. That was a must see every time.
Oh, I was thinking in the afternoon when what do we have in the afternoon? When we had a class in the afternoon, we'd come back and take a nap and listen.
We did take a nap and then went over to football practice.
Yeah, I can't remember what that was.
Yeah, Sanford and Son was the must do after calculus.
After calculus, yeah, because my brain was fried.
Needed some entertainment.
Absolutely.
On the old black and white TV.
The little portable. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Probably 9-inch screen, something like that.
I think the only thing I contributed to our college room besides the water heater was my mom would send me one of those big old ice cream tubs, and it was empty from ice cream, but she mixed up that hot chocolate mix. With powdered milk and chocolate.
Right. Yeah.
Mix a whole big thing, and then we could make.
Yeah, I remember that. Scoop it into our cups and eat the water. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So there you go. That was my contribution to society.
I just always had a lot of pressure on keeping my side of the room neat because you made me feel bad about your neatness. I was like, oh crap, here we go. Got to make the bed and everything.
But those were good things. See, I was a good influence on you, right?
To keep you disciplined, right?
Well, let's talk discipline. Let's talk football for a second. And what it was like for us our freshman year. I have a couple things I remember explicitly, but I want to see what you think.
Okay. Do you want me to start with?
Yeah.
I mean, it was intimidating to me.
You were good. You could play. I was not that good.
Well, I mean, I played 1 year of high school football, right? And I felt I was semi-coached. Played defense, through my whole year at Grand Island Senior High. So I come to Hastings, and I really don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And there were times when I felt like I wasn't being coached by, as much as I love Bill Dudley, the defensive line coaches, they just say, sit in this gap and do this, but as far as technique and stuff like that, that kind of came, I guess, a little bit of time. But first year, and then after the first 2 or 3 games, getting to play a little bit, I started getting a little bit better. Mm-hmm. With the help, more help from them. But I mean, I was intimidated,
Right. I was
Dale Oker and Webster Van Valkenburg. I mean, some of the offensive linemen, I can't remember the one fellow's name, but he kicked my butt. He was a senior,
Oh, yeah.
And he had a locker right next to me, good guy, but just like, oh, I got to line up against this guy again. Come on. I mean, it made me better,
Sure. Well, and my thought from freshman football with you was I was a tailback and Steve was a defensive tackle, right?
Yes.
And so I had to run scout team all the time, which meant I had to run the other team's plays, and pretty much the defense knew what was coming for the most part. And I remember one play in particular, I get the ball from whatever quarterback of the day was, maybe Dan Dudley back then, if you remember Dan.
Yep.
And he hands me the ball, and I take the ball and I run toward the line, and this freight train hits me and plants me on my ass directly on my back, and face mask to face mask. I look up and there's my roommate, Steve Fruchtel, and he looks at me and he smiles and he says, "We'll talk about this one back at the dorm."
Yeah, that must have been one of them lookout blocks.
Nobody concussed me, but it was pretty violent collision that I remember.
It was fun. I do remember that.
And for those of you out there listening, Steve was a pretty damn good football player at Hastings College. He's in the Hall of Fame there, was an NAIA All-American, and was faster than anyone his size should be. Because I remember in track run 1 year or 2 years that you ran what they called the fat man's relay.
Mm-hmm.
And because of your speed, we always did pretty well.
And that's, I mean, of course, I'm a lot bigger now than I was then, but I think they timed me like at a 4.7 40.
Mhm.
And I ran. I can't. One of the other tailbacks we ran, and I mean, it was pretty much head to head deal. So I always wanted to carry the ball, but they just wouldn't let me because they said
Maybe
no.
in today's football world, maybe they'd throw you a pass, right?
Maybe put me in the backfield and let me plow one in there from a half yard out.
So as a football player and an academic, right? You were not a slouch. Steve and I took our studies pretty seriously, and our football as well. I mean, we did what we were needed to do or what we were coached to do, but we were scholar athletes. And so Steve, as a scholar athlete at Hastings College, using the two venues, athletics and academics, what are the types of things that you think Hastings gave to you and to me that helped build us and help make me a person that would one day become an astronaut? What kind of uh, there may be individual professors, there may be, but things about Hastings College that stand out to you?
Well, to me, they let you be you. I mean, with encouragement. I mean, I got that from football. I just feel I got the opportunity, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing. And what I made from it, what you made from it from there. I mean, we were both motivated. Football was just a means for me to get my education.
Right.
It paid for not everything, because they couldn't pay for everything back then, but paid for half of everything, and it just gave me that opportunity. And then the folks, our coaches, Clay, were great. I mean, of course they had their faults too, but
Right.
we like to make fun of their faults. Professors. The thing I liked about Hastings was the size of the classes. The professors took interest in you on a personal basis, like I said, not only for your academics, which they did push, of course, but it invites you into their homes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no place like it.
Absolutely.
I was offered to walk on to Nebraska, and I took it there and looked at classes. I'm looking at 150 people in a math class and 150 people in beginning accounting class. They don't know, and more likely it was not the professor that was teaching the class. I mean, Hastings was my gig. I mean, once I looked at classes there and the sizes and things like that, I said, man, this the closeness to Grand Island.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm totally with you there. I think that I had thought about going to Nebraska as well. Um, I had an opportunity to walk on there, I think more as a punter than anything else. But I remember talking to a guy from Ashland that had gone there the year before me. And I said, well, what's it like? And he told me the same thing, man. You go into a class in Calculus 1 and there's 150 kids in there. And I was too naive and too unsophisticated, I think, to be able to go into that environment and survive. And going to Hastings, then that one-on-one, that cordial atmosphere with
right.
instructors being willing to be your friend and your instructor, I think that was very important to both of us, and especially to me in the physics department when Clyde Sackelman and Carl Throckmorton began to take me under their wing and
Right.
see that maybe I had something going on there.
Good guys.
Tell me one thing. I want you to share the right and left hand story.
Yeah.
No, be careful how you share it because you don't know who will be listening.
We were juniors, I think, that year, and we were on the practice field, football practice. Of course, I was on defense, and as part of the defense, I was on special teams punt return.
Mm-hmm.
So Coach Roberts calls for punt return right, which means that you hold up your offensive lineman for a count, and then you run to the right, kind of form a line. I'm supposed to follow the defensive end. The other defensive tackle follows me and kind of set up a wall for blocking. Well, Mr. Intelligent Fructal decides to turn left instead of right. I plow over whoever was behind me plus the next guy. So I've blocked two of our own guys. And Coach Roberts unleashes a little tongue lashing of some profanities and says, "Fructal, GD it, can't you tell right from left?" So, boy, that didn't feel good. Nobody likes to get chewed out, right? They're embarrassed.
Right. In front of everybody else.
So he says, "Run it again." We ran it again. I don't know if you remember Craig Simpson.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, he came the wrath of my punishment because I got it right, and he was running down, and I kind of caught him under the shoulder and rolled him up next to Coach Roberts' feet. And I mentioned to him, "I think that was a little better, huh, Coach?" Coach Roberts didn't say anything, but the next day for practice on my pads, my arm pads, I put a big R and a big L with marks a lot on my pads.
And did you?
Coach Roberts didn't think that was too funny, but anyway, that's the left and right story. It was funny.
I thought you plowed him over too once.
No, I just remember Craig Simpson rolled about 3 times, and he just rolled right up against Coach Robert's chin.
Oh, okay.
He didn't knock him down, but I wish it would have. But I told Craig afterwards, "Man, I'm sorry." And you just, don't piss off Ruckle.
And then we had a differential equations instructor named Jim Stanley, and quite another. He was a bit more eccentric, perhaps, from many of the professors we had, but very intelligent.
Oh,
and
definitely.
I think the stories I remember of the two of us taking differential equations from him as we'd go into class. I remember he was writing on the board some crazy, huge, long proof, and he got to a certain point and he just stared at it for a while. I don't know if you remember this. And usually he would finish everything with QED, right? Quod erat demonstratum, right? We have demonstrated that we got it right, or whatever. And he wrote CTFM on there instead of QED. Do you remember that one?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and we're sitting there going, what are you doing? I mean, we're all lost, right? And nobody, even the smartest people in the room, knew what the hell was going on. And so eventually he stands there and he looks back, he writes CTFM at the bottom, and he turns, he looks at us and he stands there. We go, what is that? What is CTFM? And he says, "Consult the effing manual." I don't know if you remember that one.
No, I don't.
Yeah. And of course, then you had a successful game one Saturday where you picked up a fumble and you ran it all the way back for a touchdown, which would lead to what?
Yeah.
You remember?
No, go ahead.
So when Stanley, then when we go into class, and we'd always give him crap about Tom Osborne, because Tom Osborne lost every time we played Oklahoma during our time in college. Coach Osborne was struggling to get Nebraska to be able to beat Oklahoma.
Right.
And then Jim Stanley would explain to us the story from the winter when Osborne was a student at Hastings College, and Stanley had slipped on the ice and fallen and broken his hip.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And so Osborne found Stanley laying there, I guess, and picked him up and carried this professor to the infirmary. So we could never say anything bad about Tom Osborne to Jim Stanley, and because he'd give us crap right back.
The business, yeah.
But the way we kind of broke through all that was the day that you carried that fumble back for a touchdown, and we came into differential equations class the next Monday, and Stanley gave you a nickname.
Yeah.
And
you have to remember there was like 6 of us in this class.
Right. Very small class. Absolutely.
There was like you and me and Miriam Eckblade and the other gal that had the long hair. Can't remember what her name was. Anyway.
Yeah, I know who you're talking
Dr.
about.
Stanley, he turns to the class and says, "I see we have a new student in class today." We're all looking around. Well, no, it's the same 6 people here. What's he talking about? He's losing it. And he says, "Yeah, TD Fructal," right there. He embarrassed. I mean, it did embarrass me, but I mean, I caught it. It was a little off guard. I mean, and he just goes, You know, that little hoot, hoot, hoot laugh.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Dee Dee Frumple.
yeah. Yeah. He kind of caught me off guard on that one.
But that, I think, exemplifies what we talked about
Yes.
before, that Hastings wasn't just a school, right? It was
Right.
it was a family of sorts, and a
It
place
was.
where we could be who we are and we could grow into the people that we are today. So I want to shift a little bit here, and I want to talk about your father and my father. In that, I know how much my dad simply loved to see you and talk sports with you. And the story I relate to people is when my dad used to come to track meets at Hastings College, and he always wore in the early spring when it was cooler, he had his Hastings hat and he had his Hastings jacket, and then he wore a stopwatch around his neck. And so that was cool to him because he'd get in free, and he thought that was just the biggest thing. Oh, they thought I was a coach and they let me in free. But he always came early because he wanted to see you throw the javelin. And I think that one of the cool things for me, being your roommate and being your friend, was how cool I thought it was that my dad thought you were pretty big stuff. And it always made me feel good about that. And then if we shift that to your father, Lou, and the relationship he and I were able to have, which was in my mind also very cool. I just thought the world of him, and the fact that I could be a part of his life through you and through your sisters and through your brothers and through your mom. I just think that's a very special aspect of all.
I did. We lucked out when it comes, meeting up, and your dad, like you said, having an interest in me. I mean, we'd leave football games and go back to the dorm. Your mom and your dad, my mom and my dad, siblings, maybe, I know Kirby would be there. But just talking to your dad and knowing practically every play of the game, I mean, it just, it warmed my heart. It made me feel good, that he was watching and would have, good things to say about it. And I know you had my conversation with my dad, and I'm like, I wonder if I asked my dad what happened on this play, if he knew, because your dad knew. I mean, and he'd, tell it from how he saw it, and he had that little, that little laugh, at the end, and he would, just chuckle if I nailed somebody, and he remembered it. He got him. It was just cool.
Well, and it's also, I think, important, for where I ended up on a rocket ship going to space, that that both of us had solid parental family units.
Definitely.
With strong dads, right? And
Yes.
A strong father in a home is very important to success, I think.
Right.
And then the fact that we could share our fathers in that way was also beneficial to both of us, and especially then to me, as I went on to become an astronaut. So all of this is indicative in my mind of family, and not just immediate family, right? Extended family, and how you can find family and great relationships anywhere you go if you work at it.
Yeah. My folks, whenever I'd say, I'm going to come up this weekend or something, from school, and they would always, is Clay coming with you? I mean, they always want to see Clay. I said, well, I don't think so. But, they enjoy their time with you too. So I can tell you that. And you're right. The family, the Hastings College family, I mean, and your family, I mean, that's, like I said, we just, when they drew our numbers to be roomies, I mean, it was, top notch. I mean, whoever did that,
I agree. I know that when we became resident assistants and we had to live, well, we didn't have to, but we chose to live because we could get our own room at that time. I stayed on the first floor, I believe.
And we were on opposite wings. I think you were on the east wing and I was on the west wing first.
Yes.
And then the next year, I think senior year, I went up to the zoo, up to the third floor.
Right. And I think I might have been on the
second.
Did
you go to second floor?
I think
your senior year.
Yeah. Because
we still kept in touch, I mean, that was the best thing about it, so.
Well, football was such a great bonding experience for us, in that, as we got older, our classes started to diverge a bit. I was doing
Right.
the physics thing, you were doing the math and the business accounting, and so our class load changed, but we always could find ourselves back together again on the football field and chatting about big hits and stupid things, and Bill Teal, which I look back on Bill Teal, who was a special needs person. Bill lived very near to the football field in a special needs home, and he would come across, every Friday, or many Fridays, and he would practice with us. The team had a uniform for him and a helmet, and Bill would come out there, and we would always find a way to run a play for Bill such that he could score a touchdown on Friday. And I think that was my first exposure to that sort of situation. And it made me feel good to see him succeed and smile and laugh. And it opened my eyes to something different that a small town kid from Ashland, Nebraska hadn't seen yet.
Right. And the same here. I mean, we did have some guys that didn't treat Bill like, he was, he was, I would say, bullied, for no other word, and I just didn't like, didn't like that, and at times didn't speak up like I should have when I saw it going on,
Same with me.
That's one thing I felt bad about, I mean, he didn't know any better. I mean, he just wanted the can of Pepsi, and
I forgot about that.
Hang out with the guys, So, but some of the guys just didn't treat him like he deserved.
No, I agree. I think it was a great kudo to the coaching staff that they involved him as much as they did and as often as they could. Because I found it as something that really warmed my heart that we could be a part of that. And I look back then on that and compare it to when they had the young boy at Nebraska, who was battling brain cancer, who's now doing great.
Yes.
But unfortunately lost his father. But when they had him in the spring game and they put him out for a play and he ran for a touchdown, and it was on ESPN and all over the place. I think it's a good lesson for all of us to learn about sharing and giving back.
Yeah, it warms your heart. But it did. We love seeing Bill smile, because not many times would he smile. I mean, we just didn't know what he was thinking most times, but there were times when he'd get that big old smile on his face, and just, he's happy today,
Absolutely.
And hanging out with us was good for him.
Oh, that's most definite. And
good for us too,
He used to just
shake
his head,
He kind of stomp his feet, raise his arms up and down.
Wasn't getting what he wanted.
He wanted that damn can of Pepsi.
So let's change the stride here a little bit. And I want to probe your thoughts about, now we were apart for a long time simply because our lives moved in different directions, and you went off to Georgia and Arkansas, and I was down in Houston doing the NASA thing. And it would turn out that my in-laws would move to Bentonville, or near Bentonville, and build a home, which brought me back to Arkansas so we could hook up again and we could kind of rekindle our relationship, which then ultimately led to the time that I launched into space. So tell our listeners your thoughts about how going from college roommate and football teammate to watching a guy launch in space, how that affected you, what that meant to you, those kind of things.
Well, when I found out you were in the astronaut training, I was no more proud than like your mom or dad. I mean, I was so proud that I know somebody that's going to be an astronaut. This is great. When it came time that you got announced that you were going on a mission, going on a flight, you could have sent all the stuff, how to get tickets. Well, I couldn't get off work. I was pissed. I almost quit because I was so pissed. Anyway, Mackenzie, my daughter, went with, I think Karen may have gone, my sister. and I can't remember, Diane went to in my place,
Right.
and they kind of had on the phone the sound of the shut once you were taking off. But I mean, for one, I was scared, for you, hoping things went well, of course, with the flight. But then again, I was pissed because I wasn't there to see it, because I'm holding the phone like a foot away from my ear, and it's just, just the sound of the shuttle taking off. But, I mean, it was awesome. So getting this, second opportunity, if I had to quit my job, I'm going to watch the second one.
That's the only reason I was wanted to fly twice, so that you get a chance to go watch.
Well, I'm glad that you did that. You persuaded somebody, get somebody's butt up there, got it done, so I could see the second one. But the second one was even more amazing to me, because it was the early morning, like a 6 a.m. and it was dark, and you could see it. I mean, we could see you on forever. It seemed like, with the light. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, and the sound of just being there, and just hoping, hoping things went well. Couldn't have been more proud. And telling people that, I know somebody that was on a space station, and you always go to new places or new meetings. They said, tell us something we don't know about you. Well, that would be one of the things. And then,
and one of my highlights was doing the video conference with you guys later in the mission.
yes.
And
that was another thing I remember too, was Mackenzie and I were walking around Lake Fayetteville one afternoon. It was a nice day, and my phone rings, and it's a number I don't recognize. You remember this?
Keep going. I'm pretty sure
it's a number I don't recognize. So I'm like, don't recognize this number. They left a voicemail message. Must be somebody wants something. It was a Saturday. I pick it. So I play the voice message, and they said, this is such and such from NASA. Can you call us back? Clayton Anderson would like to speak to you from the space station, International Space Station. I'm like, what the hell? What? He's trying to call me from the space station? So I said, we sat down on a bench. I called back, and they hooked me up with you, and we talked probably 5-10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, who else can say they got a call from the dang space station? Not many.
Well, the bill is in the mail, by the way. It was a collect call.
I would imagine. I'd have had to declare for bankruptcy.
So make sure you pay your taxes this April, and that'll cover the call.
They don't hold it out of my taxes. Huh? That was awesome. I mean, when we were talking, I could hear all these beeps and different stuff, from the computers or whatever, from whatever noise was making. Hear that in the background. I said, man, this ain't no joke. He really is talking from, up there. This ain't no pre-recorded stuff on here.
Yeah, those
it was awesome.
The coolest things was the ability that we had to call folks like you, right? I could call friends and family, and sometimes I would get you live, and that was awesome. But sometimes I'd miss people, like Sacklebone. One time I called him at Hastings and missed him, but I left him a message, right? And he could replay that message over and over again. And I think for me, sharing that journey and that mission path with as many people as possible on the ground was one of the things that was most meaningful to me as an astronaut and as a Nebraskan. So I'm grateful for having you guys around and willing to take that call. You could have just
it was awesome. I mean, and once you became an astronaut is when I really started paying more attention to that program and what they do. And like when you were in the space station, I mean, I found something. It wasn't an app at that time, but found something that showed where the space station was traveling at what time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go outside. Hey, there's Clay right there. There, you can see it. You can see it going by, flying over Arkansas. It was just neat knowing that you knew somebody up there.
Right, and it's important that mission, that activity brings somebody like you closer to the space program. And
Right.
the more people that understand what it is we're doing when we're up there and how dangerous it is, and when it is successful, that it's not easy, then the more people understand why it's important to continue to fund
Right.
what NASA does. So,
And Mackenzie has taken I mean, she's, since she got to see two of your launches, you got to see both of your launches, because she made the first trip, and then we traveled down again with some other friends on the second trip.
mm-hmm.
She's really taken an interest in the space travel, and with these new millionaires and stuff going up, she's watching all these new launches and all this stuff, and their new rockets and all this stuff. She's got a big telescope, and so,
Is she saving her money so she can go?
I don't know how much you need, but she may be getting close. Who knows? She's pretty tightwad.
I don't know. It's in the millions, so she's
She ain't there yet.
So as we wrap up here today on this podcast episode, I want to ask you, this is an important question, and I want you to be totally honest, and I want you to tell any clay stories that you want to share that we haven't talked about already, if you have any, and they can be good or they can be bad.
Okay, so I put a little thought into this. I couldn't think of anything bad really about you. Really.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
I mean, can you? I mean,
Oh,
of
yeah.
all the years that we've known each other, have we really had I don't even know that we've had a disagreement about anything, really.
Oh, no.
Even when we were roommates.
Right.
If we had a date coming over the room, I'd say, I'm going over to the library for an hour, give me an hour, we were always respectful of that, that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
there's the one time that I got to tell this story. We were seniors. We were wrapping up our year, and I think it was Thursday threefers, if I'm not mistaken, at the Slammer.
Oh, yeah. It was at least twofers.
It may have been. It was either twofers or threefers. You get 2 or 3 drinks for the price of one.
Yeah.
So Kirby and you and me head to the Slammer.
Yeah.
And you were the lightweight that night.
I was always the lightweight.
Because I don't think you drank that much, because I mean you were doing what you needed to do. I mean, you were studying. Kirby, I didn't drink as much as I think Kirby drank more than I did. Of course, we were trying to get you to keep up, because your drinks were kind of piling up.
Oh, I know. I had there in front of me is like every time these guys would pound their drinks and the guy would bring 3 more, and I'd have all these glasses that were full filling up in front of me. It was crazy.
Well, it was pretty busy. So whenever the waitress or the cocktail waitress, hey, while you're at it, bring us, so here she stack them up, and I was, designating driving. So I was kind of trying to keep it down a little bit. And we get back and we go to Bellevue House because they had a late night. I think it was an exam week or something, maybe.
Yeah, because I had to take the graduate record exam in physics the next morning. I knew that. Now that wasn't part of finals week, but it was finals week. So yeah.
Yeah, finals week, and I think I'd wrapped up my finals maybe. And we got you over to Bellevue House and tried to get some coffee and some food in you. And Kirby and I end up kind of holding you by the arms, the elbows or shoulders, and kind of walk you back over to Bronco and put you to bed. So
that's not how I remember.
That's my claim. Well, how you remember?
No, I remember everything except the walking me back. But now that you remind me, I remember that part too. I know that we went through, they had food at Bellevue, right?
Yes.
And as we went through the line, that was a struggle. And then the other thing I remember is being a neophyte drinker like that. You guys kept telling me, no matter how bad you have to go to the bathroom, don't go.
Don't start. Yeah.
I looked at you guys like, what? And they go, no, just trust us. And no matter how hard you have to go to the bathroom, do not go. And, it wasn't too many rounds in my lightweight state that I said, I got to go to the bathroom. I can't, no, don't go. I'm going to and I went to the bathroom, and then I never stopped. It was
open the floodgates
over there, back over.
Yep.
I spent the rest of the night in the bathroom pretty much. Yeah. I don't think I heard.
Yeah, that was my one story that was a little bit out of character for Clayton Anderson. Because, I mean, you were just so, driven and disciplined, and you had your goals. I mean, you had to get that done. And I understand, I mean, college is tough, with football, and you did a lot more stuff. I mean, you were involved in student government, you were involved in, other stuff too. And, I played football and did my studies. Luckily I had enough money saved for my summer job where I didn't have to work, during the year after football anywhere. But even at that, it was tough. So, I mean, I understand. I mean, you took the time to make Hastings College better for what you did. I think you won the Bronco Award for that year, right? For outstanding contributions to the campus. It was a campus-wide vote. So, I mean, people knew what you did, respect you, and you got what you deserved.
Wow. Thank you for those kind words. And, for those listening, Steve, as seniors, we were headed to Aurora, Nebraska for a weekend football retreat. And at some hotel complex, one of those old motor motels where all the rooms were around a big central core. And that, I think it was either the weekend before or the weekend after, your house got smashed by a tornado. So, and to know Steve and to see how solidly he dealt with that, he and his family dealt with that with nary a negative thing, right? They just took it in stride. They knew that they would recover. They knew that everything would get back to normal eventually. And that's one of the things I respect about you the most, is that you have such an even keel and a solid attitude. And I don't think that you've ever said a bad word about anybody. So I am honored to have you as my friend. I was blessed, as you said, to have you as my roommate. And I'm even more blessed to have known all the members of your family. So
Same here.
So thank you for being a part of my life, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Which was his nickname at Hastings College. And thanks for the memories, my friend, and keep in touch. And we'll see you down the road.
Okay, sounds good, Clay. I had fun.
Please rate, review, follow, and subscribe, as it helps others find my podcast. Thank you for listening. And a special thank you to my dear friend Chip Davis of Mannheim Steamroller fame for the use of his talents and music.
A Hurrdat Media Production.